So today we are going to talk about a session on approaching interviews. But first, let me tell you what WEIS Academy has to offer. So WEIS Academy offers career counseling, government exams. If you're preparing for any government exams, or you can definitely contact us. If you know someone who is studying for the IGCSE, CBSE, or ICSE board for grade 8 to 12, we even provide them with tuitions. And if you are someone preparing to go abroad, we give you GMAT and GRE training. Okay, let's dive into our topic for today. Uh, this webinar basically is going to tell you about approaching interviews. We're giving you a few tips and strategies which will help you in your upcoming interviews, right? So, what is an interview? We give interviews for so many reasons. It's not only for jobs, but if there are people applying for internships or if you're applying to a college. So you'll always come across interviews. In fact, even if you're a driver and applying for a driver's job and there's an interview which is taking place out there. So let's see what an interview is. An interview is a formal conversation between an interviewer and an interviewee, where the former asks questions seeking to obtain information, assess qualifications, evaluate the suitability of the latter to join the desired post. So there are too many words here. I'm just going to highlight a few words which is very important, and we will look at each of those words separately. Okay, these are the words which were highlighted. So formal. Please know that an interview is a formal event. Of course, there are few companies which might look at interviews as a very casual, in a very casual format, but 95% of the interviews happen formally. So your entire attire, your approach, your mindset needs to be formal. Okay, you need to wear formal clothes. You need to even present yourself in a formal way. Okay. The next thing is an interview is a conversation. Okay. Please know that it's a two-way process. It's not just that one person speaking and the other person listening. Sometimes we get so carried away by giving an answer, we just go on and on. And make sure that you keep your answers very crisp and to the point so that the conversation continues. Always try to fill in the conversation and not overpower it. The next thing is about asking questions. Now, please know that the interviewer is asking questions, and every question he or she asks has a purpose. Now, what is that purpose? That purpose is to obtain information. So, you need to be very, very clear as an interviewee that the purpose from which the question is being asked, you are meeting that purpose. If it's obtaining information, you need to provide them the information they seek. At the same time, you're assessing your qualifications. You must have given some kind of a CV or some kind of a bio data on LinkedIn from which they have taken your application. So they are going to check whether you are qualified for what you have spoken. So do not give false information in your CV. At the same time, you need to know every content which you have put in your CV. The next thing is they're evaluating the suitability. So one of the things I would always recommend is you should know what post you are going for and do a little bit of research about it. And you can carry out the conversations based on that. When they evaluate your suitability, they just check if you are suitable to join a desired post. So keeping that in mind, present your answers to all questions based on the suitability of the post. Right. Now, what is the significance of an interview? There are two parties to it. One is the interviewer, the other is the interviewee. Right. So each of them carry some kind of significance and they draw something out of the interview. For the interviewer, first of all, he or she verifies the information provided by the candidate. Now, this is very important because it identifies the candidate for who that person is. Because the first impression which the interviewer gets about you is from your CV. And now he's seeing you face to face. So then now he can verify whatever information was in the CV. Is it the same person who is in front of me? Second is the interviewer obtains additional information from the candidate. There are some things which are beyond the CV. That's what the interviewer is looking for. So information which is, you don't need to keep repeating what's in your CV when you are at the interview because that's already read. But the interviewer is also seeking additional information from the candidate. The next thing is he understands the candidate's skills and whatever the candidate lacks. One of the things I would definitely suggest for you guys is that never be dishonest in an interview. If you do not possess any particular skill, please be free and tell honestly to the interviewer that these are the areas which you are lacking in. A quick tip in this area is supposing they're looking for a specific skill which you do not possess at the moment of the or at the time of the interview. You could always say that you could always respond to the person saying that if that's a required skill for the particular job, that you are looking for courses and you will develop that skill, give them a time and you will finish that skill within the next 2 or 3 months and you will be good to go. So if there is something which you are lacking, there's always scope for you to take up that skill and achieve that skill in a span of 2 to 3 months, and that will make you suitable for the job. The next thing is the interviewer gets an insight into the candidate's nature and characteristics. So these are your soft skills, these are certain things will just come out in the interview. How you maintain yourself, are you a calm person or are you an angry person? All these things come out in an interview. And that's how what the interviewer is looking for. What about you for the interview? What are the areas which are significant to you? You understand the job profile better. Usually, the JD doesn't speak much, it's just 3 or 4 lines of the job description. And there are certain jargons which are used which you might not know. So, the interview is the place where you can understand the job profile better. Ask the right questions to the interviewer, ask about the job. They always give you an option at the end of the interview to ask any questions. So, use that time and use that opportunity to understand the job role and the profile. Next is you can also identify the expectations of the company. The interviewers are usually very clear as to what they want. And even for the particular job role, they will be very clear to you as to what are the areas they are looking for. So therefore, you as an interviewee will understand the expectancy of the company, which gives you an insight into the company. And that's what the next point is. It also makes you understand the company's nature and characteristics. Just as the interviewer is assessing your nature and characteristics, you this is the first chance you get to assess the nature and characteristics of the company. Okay. Now, the interview is divided into 3 stages. The first stage is before the interview. So it's a very important phase. The next stage is during the interview. And the third stage is after the interview. In this session, we'll be only looking at what to do before and what is to be done during the interview. We will not share what is happening after the interview. We might have it in the next session, which we conduct. But 80 to 90% of our importance is in before and during, but the remaining 10%, which is in the after part of the interview, is also important. Okay, let's take the before part. So here I've divided the before into 2 stages. One is a few days before the interview or a week or 2 before the interview. And the another one is on the day of the interview, what you need to do. So pre-interview, prepare your resume and your portfolio. Uh, Everyone should have a standard resume and portfolio. My suggestion would be that why not you should share your resume with a few friends, peers, certain mentors, or people of the industry so that you get an idea of how to build a resume. At WEIS, we might plan to take another session on portfolio writing and resume writing. So stay tuned with us so that you can get to know more about that also. So prepare your resume, prepare a basic resume, and whenever, whichever job you're applying to, try to orient that resume towards the job profile and highlight those points that that job profile is seeking. Those things will be covered in our resume writing session. The second point is very important. Research about the company. This is key because if you are applying for the company, if you're applying to the company is looking for your interest. So you need to read thoroughly about the company. You need to understand the various parameters of the company. Also, the latest news of the company you should know about. Suppose there's there's a particular area which has been covered in the last 2 weeks or in the last month, something major has come up, you should know about it because that will show the interviewer that you are interested and you've done your research. Next thing is study the job description and role. Of course, as I had mentioned earlier, you hardly get 2 to 3 lines of the JD, but you should go a step beyond, ask people of the industry, speak to your friends, or go on Google, search about the job and understand the role that job is offering. Understand each and every profile or the description of the job which you need to follow. This is very important. It will actually develop your interest and your passion towards the interview. The next thing is channelize your thoughts according to the role and according to the company. Sometimes if you're switching a job from one industry to the other, each industry functions differently. But when you're appearing for the interview, of a particular company, you need to channelize your thoughts towards that role and that company for that moment. And you cannot channelize your thought on the day of the interview. You need to prepare yourselves throughout the week or throughout your preparation time, so that your thought process also is like things like the company. You will be able to answer that better, right? Analyze how you fit in that role. Please understand, you are marketing yourself as a candidate. So you need to show the interviewer that you are the best person they should hire for that job, and there's nobody like you. So you need to analyze how you fit in that role. If you don't do that, then why should they hire you? Right. Next, prepare for the common questions asked. Ahead in these slides, we will be discussing about a few common questions which are asked at the interview. These things you can prepare beforehand and have a prepared set, so that it will just give you confidence at the time of the interview. The next thing is practice. This I would recommend this for everybody. Usually people just go and give interviews, but they forget to practice. Practice, stand in front of a mirror, practice a few common questions which they are going to ask. It will help you boost your confidence. Otherwise, get some peers, get some friends, sit with them and have an interview session. And this will just help you boost your confidence. Right. What is to be done on the day of the interview? Follow the dress code and groom yourself well. This is very important. Usually, the first impression does hold on for long in the interviewer's mind. The way you dress, the way you groom yourself, it's very, very important. Look decent, wear a formal clothes. If at all, a tie would be good. Uh, you can wear a suit, you can wear a coat, but if you see when you enter the place, if you see that coat is a bit too much, you can always remove it and keep it on the side. But I would suggest minimum a tie, a shirt, good trousers, polished shoes are very important for the interview. This is a very important thing. Reach 10 to 15 minutes early. Never go to an interview on time. It's pretty surprising when you hear it from me, but yeah, you should reach. I would say even half an hour early would be really good. Why am I telling you to reach half an hour early? If you're in a city like Mumbai, you all know the traffic situations, and usually interviews happen in the first half of the day. That and the traffic is at its peak. So make it a point that you are accounting for uh, accountable things. Sorry, you're accounting for unavoidable circumstances. So make it a point to reach half an hour early, at least. That's one thing. The other thing is, when you reach early, you will be able to gauge the atmosphere. You are entering into a new ecosystem, a new environment, and if you suddenly rush in, uh, you're just completely stumped by everything going around you. You're already anxious, you're already nervous. Therefore, just reach early to calm yourself down, gauge the environment, see what is happening. You might also see a group of people if it's an interview which is being held for multiple uh, candidates, and you can see the room. Of course, don't talk to those candidates. Be to yourself, because you've already done your preparation from before. If there are few things which you think is required to know, you can do that, but reach early. The moment you reach, please let them know that you have reached. Inform the receptionist or call the interviewer who's going to take your interview. Let them know that you are in the premises and you are ready for the interview. If you need to use the washroom and all, you can do all of those things. So usually people travel for a long time before reaching the interview place or the spot. So use the washroom, groom yourself, wipe away your sweat, and be ready. The next thing is check if all your documents are arranged in the file. Usually people carry an entire file of all their portfolio, their CV. So just check. Of course, you must have taken it beforehand, but just check if all the documents are arranged. In case the interviewer asks you to show any documents, you can show it to them. Nowadays, hardly interviewers ask you for documents during the interview. These checks happen either before or after the interview. Next thing is calm your nerves. You need to just take 5 to 10 minutes just before you enter, is to just shut yourself off from everything. I would even suggest to put your phone on silent mode and keep it away so you don't get distractions from anywhere else. Get into that zone. Start focusing. You've practiced certain questions. You've channelized your thoughts towards the company and the JD. Get into that zone. Spend that time to do these things before the interview. Keep hydrating yourselves with small sips of water. I don't think anybody's going to tell you this, but sometimes you're so nervous, your throat gets parched. When you enter you cannot even speak and your voice doesn't come out. And that again affects your confidence. So just keep taking small steps, carry a bottle, take small sips of water. Don't drink too much, you might have to use the washroom. But keep hydrating yourself, keeping your mouth uh, hydrated throughout the time till you prepare, till you reach your interview. Knock and enter with a smile. A smile does a lot, and always knock before. Please take the permission of the interview if you can come in and get yourself at the interview. Now, the interview. In the interview, once you are entering, request before sitting. Usually, the interviewer will just tell you to sit and get yourself in a comfortable position. Don't get too casual, but be in a comfortable position so that people around you have noticed you and you have also gauged the room. Usually, interviews can happen in multiple ways. So you could be sitting in front of one person, that's a one-to-one interview, or you could be sitting into a panel where there are three, four people. So when you enter, acknowledge everyone's presence. There will be a main interviewer. He or she might be either sitting directly in front of you or somebody from the interview panel is the main interviewer. It would take experience and skills to recognize that, but do not negate the presence of other people also. Interact. It's a conversation. Supposing if there's one person who's asking you the question, you do not need to give the answer just directly to him or her. Give the answer to everybody in the room. And that is how you can interact with everyone and giving them an opportunity to ask you a question. Right? Listen actively. Clarify your queries if there are any. Usually, sometimes we get so nervous or we are so panic stricken that we might miss the question. It's okay. If you've not heard a question carefully, you can always beg your pardon and ask the interviewer to repeat the question. There is no harm in that. If there is some understanding gap from the question which has been asked, if you think you've not understood the question properly, ask the get the understanding from the interviewer so that you can give them the right answer. There's no point in just assuming a question if you've not heard carefully and giving them a wrong answer. So there's no harm in asking these kind of questions. Right? Give crisp and to the point answers. Do not go on and on about something which you know of. So the interviewer also is very wise and they are also analyzing. If they ask you something which can be answered in 2 lines, finish it off in 2 lines. You do not need to elaborate on things just because you know it. Right. Maintain a professional body language. Please sit properly. Please have that respect towards the panel who's sitting in front of you or that one person who's sitting in front of you. Do not move your body. Do not sit like this. Do not sit like this. Do not scratch your head. These are very informal and unprofessional body languages. If you're getting an itch, excuse yourself, just scratch. But do not do it on a regular basis throughout the interview process. For a few moments, you can move around a bit, but majority of the time, maintain the professional body language. Next thing, another thing which I want to tell you is the smile. Never ever lose your smile throughout the interview process. I remember a time when I was giving an interview with one company and I did not know the answer of a, a particular question which they asked. So I just smiled and I told them honestly that I am not sure of the answer. Uh, so it's not wrong. It's not bad that you do not know the answer to any question. It's okay. You're not expected to know all 10 out of 10 or even 9 out of 10. They are checking your nature and your character. From the technical side, there would be certain answers which you are good in your field, so you would answer it, but you don't need to know everything. So you can excuse yourself. You can also say that, sir, I'm not sure about this, so I can get back to you on it. But do it in a smiling way. Don't feel bad. Don't feel guilty. Don't get upset. Always keep smiling. A smile can take you to far and beyond what you can even imagine. Right. Now let's discuss some common questions which are asked at the interview for which you can prepare beforehand. One of the things is introducing yourself. This is a very common question. Almost 90 to 95% of the interviews conducted ask you about yourself. Now, this is one area where you can showcase a lot because it really calls out who you are and it really makes the interviewer understand what kind of a person you are. Let me tell you why an interviewer asks you this question. Firstly, the interviewer wants to calm you down because they know you are nervous, they know you're applying for something which is very important. So you are already having nervousness inside of you. So they ask you a question to just calm you down, a question whose answer which you will know. There's no textbook or there is no newspaper or nothing. Nowhere on the internet also will help you to answer a question like this. So introducing yourself is your baby. You can do it the way you want. A suggestion in this area would just be that why not you speak not too much about yourself, give some uh, basic understanding about yourself, your name, your latest qualification. If you are working in a previous company, what role were you working in? Your hometown, maybe. And that's about it. And something related to the job profile, you can just slip it in this introduction of yours. Another question is something about your hometown and state. These are also comforting questions. These are again to calm your nerves down. You can just maintain, say something very specific or some and add a personal touch to it. Say, talk about the last time you went to your hometown or your state and something, or even something which has happened in the news very recently. So you can talk about that also. Why do you want to work in this role? Well, you should have an answer to a question like this, otherwise you shouldn't be sitting for the interview. So you can prepare this kind of a question. Why do you want to work in this role? What is the value that you can bring to the team or this role? If you find something new, speak about it at the interview, and that will give you some extra brownie points. What are your hobbies and interests? Don't go on and give a list of 10 to 20 hobbies. Maintain a 2 or 3 hobbies, and that would be enough. Because if they cross question you about something and you do not know, it will go against you. And don't choose very shabby hobbies. Don't choose very casual hobbies. Like playing a video game is not technically a hobby. And if the role is a very serious role, choose hobbies and interests from your dump of hobbies and interests. Choose the ones which actually you think would fit the role and the organization. They will always talk about your strengths and weaknesses. And usually, a lot of people talk a lot about their strengths, but they hardly focus on their weaknesses. I would suggest that acknowledging your weakness is not a wrong thing. But at the interview, you could avoid just, again, preparing a list of your weaknesses. Maybe one weakness is something you could share, and you could talk about 2, 3 strengths. Again, focus it on the role and the company which you're applying to. Keep keep these questions oriented to those things. So you can prepare these beforehand. If they ask you about your strengths and weaknesses, you can definitely talk about things related to the role. They will definitely ask you about your previous role and what you were handling. Here also focus on your achievements, focus on the areas where you have made a difference in your previous role, any particular accolades which you have got from your previous role. You can always mention about that also. And your achievements, not only in your previous role, but in general. Again, this has to be specific to the company or specific to the industry. Saying stuff like I was my class monitor and all would not make sense if you're applying for a formal job interview. But if you think it is worth it, then please go ahead and be comfortable in what you are saying. So yeah, this is a list of questions which you can prepare for beforehand, write it down, get it checked with some of your peers or some of your mentors and all, see if they have any insights and inputs. And I think you would be good to go. If you are interested in knowing more content from us, you can follow us on Instagram. We also have our Facebook, and this is our WhatsApp number. Do connect with us. We can help you in whichever area required as per our capacity. Thank you, guys. Hope to see you for the next session.